In the previous episode, King Harishchandra made a promise that would change his life forever. After failing to keep his word to Lord Varuna, he realized that love could not justify breaking a promise. Standing before sage Vishwamitra, Harishchandra made a solemn vow that no matter the cost, he would keep every promise and he would never abandon the truth again. The sage smiled and said, "We shall see." Harishchandra did not yet know that those simple words were the beginning of the greatest test any human had ever faced. The universe has a strange way of testing those who claim to stand for truth. One day, while hunting deep inside a forest, King Harishchandra heard the desperate cries of a woman. Without hesitation, he rushed toward the sound. The cries became louder, more painful. The king tightened his grip on his bow and hurried forward. But what he did not know was that there was no helpless woman. A wicked spirit named Vignaraja had created those cries. Its only purpose was to disturb the meditation of a great sage. And now, it had found the perfect victim. The evil spirit entered Harishchandra's body. In an instant, the righteous king lost control of himself. He stormed toward the meditating sage, his voice filled with insults, hands trembling with anger. The peaceful silence of the forest shattered. Moments later, the spirit left his body. Harishchandra suddenly came back to his senses. Confused, he looked before him. The sage sitting there was none other than Vishwamitra. Harishchandra immediately fell at the sage's feet. He explained that an evil spirit had possessed him. Those insulting words had never been his own. He begged for forgiveness. But Vishwamitra remained unmoved. The king then remembered something that pierced his own heart. Years ago, he had allowed another innocent child to suffer while trying to save his own son. Perhaps today, he too had become responsible for another's actions. Accepting his fate, Harishchandra folded his hands. He asked the sage how he could make amends. Vishwamitra smiled quietly. Would the king truly obey? Harishchandra answered without hesitation. As the sun god was his witness, he promised to grant the sage whatever he desired. Vishwamitra spoke immediately. He asked for the throne of Ayodhya. Harishchandra gave it away. He asked for the kingdom. The king surrendered it. He asked for all the royal wealth. Harishchandra handed over everything without resistance. Just like that, the mighty emperor of Ayodhya became an ordinary man. The next morning, the people of Ayodhya gathered to bid farewell to their beloved king. Harishchandra stood before his subjects without a crown. Beside him stood Queen Taramati and young Prince Rohita. With folded hands, the king announced that Ayodhya no longer belonged to him. Everything now belonged to sage Vishwamitra. He asked his people to bless their new beginning. As Harishchandra turned to leave, an old man threw himself at the king's feet. Then another, and another. Soon, the entire city lay on the ground, begging their king not to abandon them. Harishchandra could no longer hold back his tears. But Vishwamitra laughed. He accused the king of pretending. According to the sage, Harishchandra was trying to provoke the people into rebelling against him. The king denied the accusation. Without another word, Harishchandra took his wife and son and started walking away. Vishwamitra stopped them once again. The sage reminded Harishchandra of something the king had overlooked. Every act of charity required Dakshina, a sacred offering to the receiver. The king had donated an entire kingdom. Now he had to pay the Dakshina as well. But Harishchandra owned nothing. The sage granted him 1 month. If the payment was not made, the king's honor would be forever stained. At that very moment, the 5 Vishwadevas appeared in the sky. The divine guardians condemned Vishwamitra for his harshness, but the sage, burning with anger, cursed all 5 of them, that they would be born on earth as mortal humans. Only much later would the world know them as the 5 sons of Draupadi. Harishchandra, Taramati, and Rohita wandered south. Eventually, they reached the sacred city of Kashi, the city where even great sins were believed to be washed away. Day after day, they searched for work. No one hired them. The final day arrived. The debt still remained unpaid. That morning, Taramati quietly took her husband's hand. She led him to the house of an elderly man. Then, she asked him to sell her to that elderly man. Harishchandra refused immediately. How could a husband sell his own wife? But Taramati stood firm. If they failed to pay their debt, everything they had endured would be meaningless. With tears, Harishchandra finally agreed. The queen was sold into servitude. Rohita went with her. The king stood silently watching his family disappear. He carried the money straight to Vishwamitra. But once again, the amount was declared insufficient. It was only half the required Dakshina. The king had nothing left. Then Vishwamitra suggested one final solution. Sell yourself. Harishchandra agreed. But when he saw the buyer, his heart froze. It was a Chandala, a keeper of cremation grounds, a man who handled dead bodies every day, a profession considered the lowest in society. Harishchandra begged to become Vishwamitra's servant instead. The sage agreed, only to command him, as his very first order, to sell himself to the Chandala. The king understood. There was no escape. Removing the sacred mark of the sun from his forehead, he surrendered. From that day onward, Harishchandra worked at the cremation grounds of Kashi. He collected fees from grieving families. He guarded burning pyres from wild animals. He watched kings, priests, merchants, and beggars all become the same ashes. Death recognized no caste, no wealth, no pride. Only truth remained. One moonlit night, a grieving woman arrived carrying the body of her dead son. She had no money. Harishchandra sadly explained that without the required fee, he could not perform the cremation. The woman begged. The king remained firm. Duty came before emotion. Then, the moon emerged from behind the clouds. Its light revealed the faces before him. The woman was Taramati. The dead child was Rohita. The prince had died from a snake bite. Harishchandra's heart shattered. He embraced his son's lifeless body. But even then, he refused to break his duty. Without the fee, the cremation could not take place. Taramati cried in disbelief. Had truth become more important than their own child? Harishchandra wept openly. He admitted that once before, he had broken his word out of love, and he had spent years paying for that mistake. He could not fail again, not even now, for his own son. Driven by unbearable grief, Taramati seized the executioner's axe. She decided to end her own life. Just as the blade rose, a voice echoed across the cremation ground. Taramati! She stopped. She turned. Standing there were Vishwamitra, the Chandala, and Rohita, alive, healthy, running toward his mother. Everything had been an illusion. The final test was over. Vishwamitra embraced Harishchandra. The sage admitted that he had failed to break the king's resolve. Every trial had only made Harishchandra stronger. His kingdom was returned, his honor restored. Then something extraordinary happened. The Chandala began glowing with divine light. The disguise disappeared. Standing before them was Yama, the Lord of Death himself. He gently restored the sacred mark of the sun upon Harishchandra's forehead. Then he blessed the king. From that day onward, the name Harishchandra would become the very symbol of truth, integrity, and unwavering righteousness. Before leaving, Harishchandra made one final request. He asked Vishwamitra to forgive the 5 Vishwadevas. The sage could not completely withdraw his curse, but he shortened their time on earth. In the age of the Mahabharata, those 5 divine beings would be born as the Upapandavas, the 5 sons of Draupadi. Their lives would be brief, but after fulfilling their destiny, they would return to the heavens once again. Thus ended the journey of King Harishchandra, a king who lost everything he loved. Yet in losing everything he gained something far greater, a name that has lived for thousands of years. Even today, when someone speaks of absolute truth, unshakable integrity, and keeping one's word at any cost, only one name comes to mind: King Harishchandra. His story reminds us that truth is not merely spoken, it is lived, even when the entire world stands against it. If you enjoyed this series of King Harishchandra's legacy and want to explore more fascinating tales from Indian mythology, Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Every week, we bring you timeless stories of gods, kings, sages, and heroes, retold with beautiful animation and engaging narration. Until our next journey into the world of mythology, Jai Shri Ram, Jai Mahadev, Jai Shri Hari.